Well, welcome to Learn and Improve application. The objective of this lesson is to apply the key learning and improvement concepts to your particular organization. Specifically, you'll identify the approaches to learning and improvement used in your organization, describe the process, the frequency, the people, and some example projects. The Learning and Improvement Approaches worksheet includes 4 columns and 4 questions. We begin with the method. You first identify the learning and improvement method, including the steps, and describe that approach or that method. Then you identify where in the organization this method is used and the typical size of the improvement projects are addressed with this method and where it's being used. Then how often is it used? If it's used regularly, then what is the schedule? It could be used periodically, like quarterly or annually, like a strategy process. Or it could be an ad hoc method that you use when necessary to address a problem that's emerged. And finally, identify who the people that are involved in using this method, describe the number and type of people who are trained to use this method, and identify an example where this method has been used. So some quick examples might be the strategy and development and deployment process, and the application and scope would be the entire enterprise, both external products and services and internal operations that create those. The frequency might be annually, it might be an overlapping process where you're still executing on last year's strategy when you start developing this next year's strategy. It could be more frequent than that, and depending on the time horizons in your particular industry and organization and how quickly things are changing. And finally, the strategy process is typically the domain of the board of directors, CEO, and senior leadership team working together. They each have different roles in the process. An organization excellence assessment, such as a Baldrige assessment or an EFQM, the European Foundation for Quality Management, some excellence model might be a method that you would use. And in this case, typically all those major systems are included in the assessment. That's the scope, everything from leadership, strategy, and customer to people, processes, results, information analysis. It's usually a pretty comprehensive, holistic assessment. The frequency might be an annual process where in Q1 each year you work on improvement projects or you do an analysis and then work on improvement projects throughout the rest of the year. There might be a typical annual schedule, or you may be doing this every few years and spending most of the time working on improvement projects. In this case, an example might be you've got 14 trained examiners, including the senior leadership team. And another method might be a Six Sigma approach or process to process improvement, and the application and scope might be limited to operation and support processes right now in your organization. It doesn't have to be, but it might be. It might be an ad hoc process. In other words, you set up a Six Sigma process and you use this method when you've got a particular issue to address that makes sense. And maybe you've got a whole group or cadre of black belts and green belts to support this and make it happen. So the Learning and Improvement Approaches worksheet is a way for you to capture all the different methods you're using in your organization to learn and improve, and describe those, the application and scope, frequency, and who does it. You may need several of these if you've got, there's only 3 rows for this worksheet. And so to develop your own, download the blank Learning and Improvement Worksheet, as always, from this website. And then identify the learning and improvement methods that your organization uses, and for each method, fill in the 4 questions. And then shop that around and show that to your boss, show that to your colleagues, subordinates, get their feedback, and fill in any blanks that you have, and use that to revise and make it even better. You'll use this worksheet and key concepts and everything you've learned in the next lesson to assess how your organization is doing learning and improvement. We'll see you there.